Hello everyone, I'm your hostess with the mostest 8-second gaming, and in today's video we're going to be talking about how you can start to create a game plan for you to follow in your Apex games. Because I see this all the time holding low elo players back. They just drop in without even slightly thinking about the situations that they could find themselves in, and they just go with the flow. But that can cause you to not only lose RP but also lose motivation to play as well. But don't worry, I'm here to help, and by the end of this video you will understand how to structure your own game plans. And while creating a game plan is a great start at becoming a better Apex player, if you're really looking to truly take your gameplay to the next level, then you need to check out the GameLeap website right now. Over there we have top level coaches creating the best, most highly informative guides that are all site exclusive, so you will not find them anywhere else. We're creating up to 10 videos a week of legend guides, gun guides, VOD reviews, and much more, all to make you the best player you can possibly be. So if you want to hit a new peak rank, reach Diamond, Masters, or even Predator, click the link in the description, pick yourself up a membership, or I'll deflate all your tires. But okay, jumping into things, the first thing that you guys need to be planning out is your team comp. You guys gotta remember that planning starts before you even get into the game. When you're in the loading screen picking your legends, that team comp matters, because then you have to plan something that fits inside with the style of legends that you are running. If you pick mainly defensive legends, then you should be planning on taking a strong spot in zone and playing for endgame. Defensive legends thrive in buildings or creating choke points to funnel teams in fights. They're not really good at just running around. But on the other hand, if you're running a highly offensive legend team comp with no capability of holding a building, then you should know that you can't really play zone as effectively, and you should probably look to try and play edge and be aggressive. Now this goes for solo queuers and 3 stacks alike. I see both these types of players making these mistakes. You wouldn't believe how many times I've seen a 3 stack run the same legend comp and have no game plan in mind. Or they don't really even plan the team comp, they just play the legends that they want to play, which is fine. Play the legends that you enjoy, it is a video game. But still, you should be planning to use that legend to the full extent. So always be thinking of your legend and your team's legend's strengths and weaknesses, and then plan around that. That will set you up for the game. But speaking of setting you up for the entire game, that leads into tip number 2, and that is picking a good drop spot. Now a good drop spot is crucial for players that actually want to climb, because having a good drop spot, you either get good loot, good rotational position, or tons of knowledge. And if you're lucky, maybe 2 out of the 3. An example of a spot that gives 2 out of the 3 is map room. Map room actually has a really good amount of loot inside of it, and you also have the satellite. Now the satellite not only reveals the next ring location, but it also reveals every player on the map, so you know where everyone is, and that is the most amazing amount of information you're ever going to get. But it's only 2 out of 3 because map room doesn't really offer the best rotational options. You only really have 2 places to go. You either go to caustic treatment or to repulsor, so you are limited there. But also, landing in the same spot over and over with your team will allow you and them to learn the spot inside out and backwards. That will then give you good efficient loot paths, and you'll also learn how to fight there. Now with having a good loot path, your teammates and you will be in and out of the POI extremely quickly, and you will be minimizing loot left behind. I see it all the time where people don't know all the spots of loot inside a POI, and they actually leave behind a large amount of potential loot. And when you're going there over and over and you're learning how to fight there, you won't be scared of people trying to contest you. You will just see it as 3 free KP. For example, when Stormpoint first came out in Season 11, my team dropped North Pad and North Pad only. We landed there all split, and we only lost a contest 5 times. Across the entire split, 5 times. Because we learned the spot like the back of our hands. We knew exactly where the strong spots were, where the weak spots were, and we knew exactly how to funnel teams because we landed there constantly. And if you guys want to have a good game, you can't be giving up your drop spot because one team decides to go there. But after you're done looting your drop spot, that leads into tip number 3, and that is planning out rotations. Now, rotations can be very risky things to plan out because it involves anticipating enemy teams, and you can almost never truly account for what another team is going to do. But this is where the devil is in the details, because the trick to mastering rotation is you need to be taking in every little single piece of information possible leading up to your rotation. What was the flight path of the ship? Because then you'll know what teams are able to stretch to or not. Did enemies land near you? As you're flying down, you need to be looking looking around to see if people are coming with you or landing near you. Can you hear shots? Is there a team fighting nearby? Are you going to third party it potentially? And then are you going through a high traffic area? If you're in a high traffic area, it's a very good chance that teams are also going to be coming towards you or in front of you. There are so many small things that you need to be taking into account to plan the safest rotation possible. Or maybe you don't want to have the safest rotation possible. Maybe you want to run into another team to fight them. But even then, you still have to be taking in the same information because you need to know if you're taking an isolated fight or not. If it's not an isolated fight and more teams are going to be coming through that area, you know that you're probably going to get third partied and you either need to back off of that fight or end it very quickly. So you can never be autopiloting in a game of Apex. You always constantly need to be looking around and seeing if there's any small details to hint that there are teams nearby. But let's say you made it through your rotation and you've made it to endgame. Congratulations. But don't go celebrating just yet because endgame is actually one of the toughest parts of the game to plan out. Rotations are tough to plan out, but if rotations are tough, endgames are trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while blindfolded with your feet because your hands are tied behind your back. The amount of small little things that go into endgame is just unimaginable. But on the base level, you have to be planning out basically if you want to try to force a spot or play what you can get. Are you risking trying to kill a team, or are you just happy to let things play out and go from there, be a spectator basically? Each have their ups and downs, each are good and viable in their own respects, but each also are extremely risky. But if you guys are ever in doubt, the golden rule for endgame is you never want to be the team that starts something. If you start a fight at endgame, teams will continue to pile on and on and on, and that can ruin your game because you are the center of attention. If you cannot get a spot safely, then sure, you might have to apply some pressure to teams to secure an area. But if you get a lot of damage out on somebody, they're not going to be peeking you for that time, and you don't have to overcommit to that damage. You'd be surprised how many teams I've seen throw their games because they get a little bit of damage out in an endgame situation and they just immediately rush it. It's not worth throwing your game over 3 potential KP. When you get to endgame, you need to take into account all of the enemies that are there. Are they in buildings? Do they have high ground spots? What legends are they playing? Can they get out of fights? Can they stall fights? When you take this all into account, you will be able to start to see weak spots in teams' team comp. And then maybe potentially the ring pulls to you and you'll be able to force them into each other and just do an easy cleanup. Or maybe they're going to be forced into you. Do you have the facilities to fend them off? That's why I said endgames are very, very hard to plan out because there's so many small things. But that's another thing you guys need to be keeping in mind because plans in Apex almost never go the way you want them to. They are good to have, and you should always have a general idea of your goal so your team is always on the same page and you're not as confused during fights. But always be prepared because it can and will go wrong and you're going to need to change and adapt on the fly. It's like I said, people and teams will never do what you expect them to do. You can never fully plan around enemies, so keep that in mind when making your plan. But with all this being said, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you did and you want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest Apex Legends tips, tricks, and news, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Once again, I'm 8 Second Gaming, and I will see you in the next one.